All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. We talk about an old movie, we talk about the new one, compare and contrast. Don't necessarily decide which is better. We just talk about them. I'm Mike, as always. I've got my buddy Alex. How you doing, man?
I'm still Alex. As always, I'm Alex.
As always. And you're Palishi, no more on certain things.
That's old news, friend.
Yep. Anyway, we are here to talk about, a movie that's getting some buzz. It's Guillermo Del Toro, Nightmare Alley.
Up-and-coming director, GDT.
Up-and-coming foreign director. He's not an American director, little-known director named
Here on this podcast, we like American directors.
Yeah. But no, Guillermo Del Toro, both of us are big fans of
I like my directors
Guillermo.
like I like my French fries.
American?
Greasy and American.
Yeah, there we go. I don't like how we're starting this episode, man. I don't like this at all. But no, we were both big fans of Guillermo Del Toro.
And remake our intro.
So we were very happy to be talking about this movie. I didn't realize Nightmare Alley was a remake until Alex brought it up. He texted me like a week ago, like, dude, Nightmare Alley's a remake. And I'm like, dude, we're going to do it on the next episode then.
Yeah. I didn't realize until Scarlett told me. And I also didn't realize that this was like an Oscar-y movie. I didn't see what it's up for. What did you?
So I don't know if it actually got Oscar nominated. I know it was nominated for Golden Globes.
I thought that this. Maybe I'm thinking about Golden Globes. I interpreted that this was just sort of a little passion project for GDT. I wasn't expecting it to be like an award buzz movie. But I guess it is, and after watching it, it feels like that too.
So I know Hulu. I watched it on Hulu like a poor. I found after the fact that it's on HBO Max as well.
The original one is on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch
it is listed under Golden Globe nominee.
Right,
but
I think the Oscars haven't come out yet.
The Oscar nominations have come out, so it actually looks like it is up for Best Picture, Best Cinematography. Mm-hmm. Best production design, best costume design. So yeah, it's got a few awards that it's nominated for.
Yeah, I was disappointed there wasn't any fish sex in it, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
But yeah, let's get into it. Have you? Obviously, I know you hadn't seen the either of these ones because you didn't even know it was a remake.
Right, hadn't even heard of the original one.
So neither have I, and so the original one was actually a passion project for the lead actor whose name I'm blanking on right now. Give me 1 second. I'm not prepared for this episode at all. It's been a crazy week. Yeah, so he was actually kind of like the guy in Squid Games, where he's known for being this handsome, happy-go-lucky. And, he's done some westerns and he's done some romantic movies, and he wanted to do this movie specifically after getting back from World War II. He wanted to kind of change his image and not just be the classically handsome good guy anymore. So he convinced the studio to buy the rights to the film. This is based off a book that only came out 2 years prior in 1955. And he wanted to shoot this like a noir film. And this at the time was like the most expensive noir film ever made. So,
oh wow,
pretty big deal. It's a fairly short movie. The original one, like, it was pretty brisk, and I'm just gonna say at the top, I said this with West Side Story, and one of our former co-hosts used to say this a lot, but the new one's really just kind of an unabridged version of the original one.
Yeah, they like doing that. They like unabridging. They like taking the bridge away.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of the one bridge.
But you want to summarize what this is about? Let our listeners know if they haven't seen this.
Yeah, it's about a young man, relatively young man, a seemingly young man, who gets into carny work and discovers what would you
small
call
hands smell like cabbage.
He discovers a method or a certain type of trick that allows him to do what's called mentalist work, which is basically the trick is that his partner has a way of communicating with him to let him know what an audience member is holding, and he has a blindfold on, and he's able to act like he's reading someone's mind or seeing into another dimension or something. And he ends up parlaying that into what they call spook shows, where he is communicating. He's doing a seance and communicating with people's deceased family members,
Acting like a medium.
And getting money out of these people. So the movie is trying to say that he's crossing a moral line, and you see sort of his rise and fall, his descent into greed and sin is a big theme in these movies, and it all goes sideways. The fart goes sideways,
and
and you
what
see
I
him
think
come
is
undone.
interesting about this movie is I think it does a pretty good job of, demonstrating, what it's like to be in, a traveling circus, carnival, sideshow, freak show kind of environment. You see, there's the business side of it. You see how they're living and, on the road. And then you also see how, the underbelly kind of dark, seedy side of the circus entertainment. And like we know, Greatest Showman, fantastic movie, but we know Barnum and Bailey were not good people, and we know that they were doing some shady stuff and not taking care of their acts and whatnot. And this is kind of the same thing. Like the movie starts off with them explaining what a geek is. So nowadays you and I would be considered geeks, somebody who's nerdy or into something, but a geek traditionally actually is a opening act for a freak show, and generally it was a person who bit the heads off of chickens, and that was made illegal very, very early into it, but it just kind of stuck around. And so the movie begins with Tyrone Power's character Stan trying to get into the mind of who would do this, like what has to happen to a person to get so as low as to eat chicken heads in front of people.
And guess what happens at the end of the movie when he's fallen into the pits of despair? And
does he become a geek?
Whatever. That's what happens.
Yeah. So like this movie, it's like I said, because it's unabridged, I think we can kind of move through this version pretty quickly because we're going to talk about essentially an extended edition. But what I do want to give credit to this one compared to the newer one, I think that this movie, even, it's a black and white movie, so of course it's more in the gray, but there's a lot more gray area into this one. Like the crux of the movie really happens is there's a psychic named Xena and her husband who originally kind of did his act, but he became a drunk. The Peter guy, who the husband, became a drunk, and so they had to change the show, and now they went from being a headlining act to being on this traveling circus, and he wants to learn, and they won't teach him. And so there's a certain point where he accidentally gives a bottle of wood alcohol to the drunk because they go to hide the bottle, and then when he comes back with the other bottle, it's wood alcohol. In this movie, he looks sad. He definitely profits from it and comes out on top, because this guy has an accident. But it seems like it could have been an accident.
Yeah.
And he feels guilty throughout the movie. The newer version, I would say, is less black and white. And, we'll get into it. But I thought this movie was solid overall. I mean, it was in 1947, 4x3 kind of movie. I don't think it did anything crazy. I don't think it reinvented the wheel. I know at the time this movie didn't really make any money, but it became a classic down the line. But it was fine.
Yeah, I had an okay time with it. I think I probably wouldn't revisit it. It didn't blow my socks off. It felt, as a lot of these movies do, it just kind of feels dated through no fault of its own. It's came out in
47.
47, yeah. So it's an old movie. I enjoyed it well enough, and I think it was ripe for a remake.
Yeah, no, I think that totally makes sense. So, I mean, was there anything in particular performance-wise, anything that stands out, or should we just kind of just jump the gun and get into the new one?
We can talk about this in the new one too, but the ages of these people were weird. They were either 27 or 45. Like, it was very unclear how old anyone was supposed to be.
Yeah, except for, like the drunk guy, he was clearly a little older, and then some of like the...
And like
Molly,
the girl that Stan marries and then becomes part of his act, is like clearly very young.
Yeah. So, I mean, she was born in 1922, so she was 25.
Yeah.
And he was 34.
And she looked a little bit younger. I think she was supposed to be playing like early 20s, maybe 19.
Yeah, I would say so. And he was 34, and then he died young. He died at 44 from a massive heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So, Bummer. He
Yeah.
did not live very long. But no, God, I'm ready just to move into the new one.
Let's see. There was a Total Recall reference in there.
Oh, I wrote that down too.
Making them get married felt weird. Like they found out that Stan was hooking up with Molly in secret, or that they had hooked up once, and then they had like.
But did they actually? So that's like
Well,
this era
let me
of
say
filmmaking.
let me say
it's
what happened for
implied.
people listening to the podcast.
Yeah, it's implied that because back then you couldn't really have love scenes in movies. Like even just a few years prior with Gone with the Wind, just having it fade to black and the implication that they slept together was.
I mean, sure, but
that's
not what I was saying. What I was saying is weird is that they forced them to get married. Like,
well, no, I know, but
happened, but
right. The reasoning was because of her purity was at stake. But it was never explicitly said that they didn't. Like they just kind of like were smooching and somebody walked by. Like it wasn't explicitly. It's weird. I agree with you. It's just weird that they forced them to get married.
Yeah, I mean, their purity was at stake whether they hooked up or not. But it was strange that they like forced them to get married.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of like if it was like a Hays Code kind of thing, because like I don't think they really did anything.
No, I don't think that's what it was. I think I don't think that the movie was making them get married because you're not supposed to have sex in movies. I think the characters wanted to do that, but that just doesn't translate.
Yeah, it's just it's basically the same in the new one, but yeah, it was a little weird. Like it seemed like it was very much
the new one at all. They like fall in love in the new one. Nobody forces him to do anything, and he's not. And in the new one, he's not cheating on Xena.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't technically with Xena in this one either, though. It was all like
they were,
and this is
it's
the
heavily
implied
that Xena and him were getting together behind Pete's back,
right? And I'd say, and I mean, we'll get into I think this will be clearer once we get into the new one because it's, but yeah, the new one essentially the same story. Stan is a guy who has a mysterious past, and he decides to work for a carnival, and he is very ambitious and tries to move up, and then eventually becomes a local celebrity in Buffalo.
Are we doing what have you been up to, bud?
No, I think we'll just do that at the end since we didn't spend very much time.
Okay.
We'll throw it. We're gonna throw the script out on this one.
All right.
But yeah, that's pretty much the same movie. This one, the new one, starts with him putting a body in some floorboards and then lighting the house on fire.
I was wondering if that was a body. Like it becomes very clear. Spoiler alert! It becomes very clear at the end that it was. But at the beginning of the movie, that bag looked too small to be a body. To me.
Yeah, the angle was weird on it. So like I questioned it for a second too, but I figured like what else could it have possibly been?
Yeah, I guess so. The movie
logically
kind of like jumps forward in time after that, so I wasn't really thinking about it until
it has a couple of time jumps. So like it jumps forward, a couple of months, and he's been like kind of a bum, and then he's hitching rides, and he follows a little person to a circus, and like that guy's like really upset with him, but he finagles getting a job from Willem Dafoe, and
Willem Dafoe is so good in this.
I mean, he's good in everything, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people are upset that he didn't get an Oscar nom for Spider-Man: No Way Home, and I'm like, it's not even the best movie he was in last year.
Yeah,
like.
I feel like, can we sidebar for a second about Marvel movies?
Yeah.
I feel like The Dark Knight, was the movie where people are like, oh, we have to take superhero movies seriously now, right?
Right.
And I feel like I feel like society has swung back to being like, oh, these are different. They're not, these are not worthy of Oscar recognition. I know Black Panther was nominated, but it feels like we're getting back to that.
Well, and I also think people are starting to realize, and a lot of people were upset that Spider-Man didn't get nominated for anything other than the special effects award, but they are doing this year for the first time like an online thing where just regular people like you and I can go online and vote, and they're going to do like the fan favorite film, which I don't think is necessary. I think that kind of cheapens what the Oscars are supposed to be about.
Yeah.
But I think too many people think box office clout and revenue is what makes a movie good. And, you know, we've had a great time talking about the Fast and the Furious movies, you know, over the last year and a half. Those movies make a ton of money, but they're not good movies. And I think that's the thing that people.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that Marvel has some good movies, but they're still not going to be recognized for
But
the Oscars.
even the best one, I don't think is necessary. Like Endgame, for example, like it doesn't stand on its own. I don't think any Marvel movie at this point really stands on its own. Where you can,
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate now, but isn't it a greater achievement to tell a 22 movie arc?
But that's not what you're getting nominated for. You don't get nominated for 22 movies.
I think
you're getting nominated for.
Yeah, you're right. I think that we're maybe in a space that the Oscars are not equipped to deal with.
And what a lot of times they do is like Lord of the Rings didn't get like any real nominations until Return of the King. So sometimes they'll do it to cap it off, to give it its due. And Marvel doesn't have any real signs of slowing down. So I think that might be part of it. But also, like, the Marvel movies, as much as we love them, like, none of them are perfect movies. And I think, you know, Parasite winning last year, a lot of people wouldn't have seen that movie if it didn't get all the Oscar buzz and whatnot. So I think it is important that, you know, the Oscars highlight movies that not everybody saw. So, you know,
yeah, I
it
agree
is what
with
it
that.
is.
I think that, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe it's new categories or something.
Yeah, have one for tent poles.
Yeah, I don't even know what that would look like, but like,
yeah, I don't know.
That kind of does solve a problem. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's not just that. Now, granted, comedies have really died at the theaters. They're not making a ton of comedies anymore, but that was an issue for a long time. People were upset that comedies never got nominated. Even at the Golden Globes and SAG, it's like best comedy or musical. Like they're lumped in with other things. So I think that's just an issue at large is, you know, maybe the Academy's out of touch. But, you know, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. That dwarf was really mad that Cooper followed him to the carnival, but I feel like going to a carnival is why the carnival is there.
Right. Well, and also it's like you just got off the bus station. I hope that dwarf is the right
word to use, by the way. Little person, I guess.
I said little person earlier. Okay. Yeah, that's the
I amend my statement to say little person.
But you know what? You were being a good person. You recognized, like, hey, is this the right
I'm not
thing?
Embarrassed. Leave it in.
Yeah, you did what you're supposed to do. It's, you know, you acknowledged it. We're moving on. But no, you're right though. Like, what else is he supposed to do? He gets off this bus in like this town that's like one road, and you see all these giant lights. Like, where else are you gonna go?
Yeah, he's a paying customer. Why are you chasing him off?
Yeah, it's super weird. But you know, I actually really liked him not just being a carny right at the beginning, like him going through and seeing what it is, and then, you know, he gets the one night of work, and then Willem Dafoe kind of likes him, so he's like, hey, you know, why don't you come around and we'll find something a little bit more permanent for you. And then he alludes to the fact that he's probably wanted for something. He's just like, look, we're traveling, we're on the road, everybody's got their story, we don't care as long as you pull your weight and don't cause trouble. Like, you can be part of the circus family.
Yeah, he's, you know, that's the unabridgedness of this movie, is that he's a fleshed out character. Yeah. I think his relationship with Molly is much more fleshed out as well.
Well, I also like, it was very clear he was ambitious in the first one, but what I liked about this one was, you know, even the original one, it shows that he does a little bit of thing, like he does some carnival barking, and then he also works for Xena even before he starts to try to take over the act. But what I liked about this one was he was really trying to learn about how it worked. Like he explicitly asked Willem Dafoe, you know, what is a geek? How does it happen? And we learn step by step, like what they actually do, the recruiting process for the geek right up front. So when it comes around at the end for, you know, the twist ending, it was even more obvious what was going to happen.
And it made it much more satisfying. It was much more of a payoff.
Yeah, and then he also tried to improve other people's acts. Like in both versions, Molly does little tricks with like electricity and like Faraday cages and whatnot. But in this one, you know, she was just kind of standing around and she would wave her hands and lightning would fly around. And he's just like, why don't we make this like an execution? And it's an electric chair thing, and like builds the story. And you show that he does have, you know, an eye for marketing and entertainment. Yeah. And I actually like that. It made it make sense that, you know, he would be somebody who wants to have his own act and whatnot. And it made it so much more believable when he was like buttering, you know, up Xena and Pete in this version.
Yeah. And there's a little foreshadow of the spook show much earlier on in this version than there was in the other one. Right, I think it was right before he was learning the bit of the code from Pete. And it just, again, it sets it up for later on.
Yeah, because we see that Pete is a drunk and he can't get through the act, so Xena has to kind of stumble her way through to finish the show because he leaves, and so she kind of has to do a cold read on one of the fans and everything. So yeah, we do kind of see where he can go from there, and what a pro can do even when the process breaks down.
Yeah.
So
I have a question.
Yeah, just to fast forward a little bit, same kind of thing. He tries to learn from Pete. He ends up, this one, it's very explicit. Like, he gives Pete the wood alcohol.
I didn't think it was clear, actually, because he looked shocked at himself.
I think it was him playing that up so people want to see, because there was a whole spiel where Willem Dafoe says, we're not supposed to have alcohol because it's Prohibition era.
Right.
And he goes through and breaks down the system. He goes, the alcohol is here, the wood alcohol is here, you put your nickel in, and he very clearly deliberated and grabbed it.
Yeah. So this is my question, by the way. Why would you keep the drinking alcohol and the poison right next to each other?
I think it's for deniability, because if, somebody, a cop or somebody shows up, he can just be like, this is clearly wood alcohol, and you pop open a bottle and it's wood alcohol.
It's not during Prohibition, though.
I thought this was.
It's set in 1941.
Oh, is it place in 1940? When did Prohibition end?
1930.
Okay, but it was still moonshine, which moonshine's not technically legal.
Yeah, I think your explanation makes sense.
Because Willem Dafoe explicitly says there's a system in place to keep them safe.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, like I believe he did it on purpose, because he goes out on a mission to go and find that bottle, and goes and grabs it, immediately gives it to the guy. The guy wakes up dead, and then he immediately goes and he profits from it. He immediately takes over the act and everything. And then when we get to the end of the movie, to kind of just skip to the end, he brutally murders a couple of people with a car. Like, he is a much angrier, much darker person.
Yeah, and it's not clear that it's not clear that it's a body. It's not clear that he murdered his father in the beginning, but that is made clear at the end. And you realize, oh, this guy has been a murderer all along.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in retrospect, it makes sense that he killed Pete on purpose. I was going to say, he only killed one person with the car. The other person was Richard Jenkins.
Oh, he beat to death.
And he beat his nose into his brain, and they showed the whole thing.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
That was I jumped out of the couch and rewound it because I had to see it again. It was
this movie
so much more gory than I thought it was going to
be. I mean, they also showed the first geek biting the head off the chicken and the blood spraying.
Yeah. So
this movie was definitely more graphic. I was uncomfortable with it.
It felt very
at the end.
It felt very Tarantino-y with the explosions of extreme violence.
I
agree. That it's there. And they set it up in the beginning, this is the tone of the movie. We're not pulling punches, but there are long sections in the movie where nothing violent happens. And then, Brennan's mom from Step Brothers, Mary Steenburgen, kills her husband and then shoots herself in the face. And it's oh wow, this is extremely violent.
Both
and then
parents from Step Brothers are in this movie. The guy he kills at the end is the dad.
Yeah, Richard Jenkins.
Yeah. So that one was jarring for me, because I've been watching 6 Feet Under. We're almost done with it, and he's the patriarch who dies in the first episode on that, and I was just like, hey, it's him. It's Nathaniel.
He's great.
But no, that scene that you brought up with Mary Steenburgen was insane, because it's once again, it's the unabridged version. So eventually when he gets to Buffalo and he becomes the leading act and doing the mentalism, he gets full of himself and starts doing cold reads and starts doing the medium kind of stuff. And he justifies it by saying, well, look, I made this couple happy. I gave them closure.
Right.
But in his arrogance, he said something along the lines you'll see him again in the afterlife. And she was, obviously very depressed and hurt from her son being dead. So she took that as if we just die, we'll be reunited and everything. And there was a pretty cold part of the movie. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, that's why you
Because
don't
in the
do spook
original
shows.
movie, yeah, the original movie, everything was going well with him for him. The only thing that made everything kind of like the House of Cards collapse was the main twist of the movie is there's a wealthy guy who wants to be reunited with an old love from when he was younger, and Molly, his wife, chickens out at the end and gets too close, and she apologizes and ruins the illusion. In this version, like the guy's like, oh yeah, I totally hurt women, I've totally beaten a bunch of women, and then he sees the ghost of his old life and just decides to go running after her. And like Bradley Cooper doesn't really do anything to stop that from happening. It was super weird.
I mean, he chased after him. I don't know.
He
I don't know what he was
chased
supposed to
after him,
do.
but it's like in the original movie, I would say like she was super far away, and he kept like grabbing the guy and forcing him to his knees, and then she was the one who broke. And this one, she's like, he let her get to within 15 feet or so,
Yeah.
where that was pretty risky. Like at 15 feet, like I could be able to tell if a woman was a woman that I loved.
Right. It's not
It
a
was
very
all
well
very
thought out
risky.
plan.
And
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. I think it was just hubris.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that's like a big theme in this movie, and that kind of ties into the sin thing. Like this movie opens up in like what the second or third opening scene, right, is in the fun house, the damnation fun house, where you're sort of walking through the different sins, I think, and they're all
yeah,
painted all over the wall, and there's devils everywhere and stuff. And I think it was meant to make you think a lot about the sins that this guy is committing over the course of the movie, and I think it was
yeah.
a much
Well,
more
and
on the surface thing.
you see that darkness in him there because the geek gets out, and they do this whole thing where they try to find the geek, and they send him. This is his first night. Like he hasn't worked for the circus before, but they send him on his own into the fun house to find the geek, and then the geek hits him with a rock, and then Willem Dafoe startles him, and Bradley Cooper's character Stan like choke slams the dude, and then like hits him over the head 3 times with like some heavy implement.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, dude, don't kill the geek, then we have to get another geek.
Yeah,
Like, what are
we
you
need this
doing?
guy.
But like, yeah, he was like ready to, like, he went from, hey, I'm not gonna hurt you, to like, I'm gonna choke slam you and beat you to death, like that.
Yeah.
So he was a dark character.
Yeah.
This cast was incredible in
Yeah.
this version. Rooney Mara was Molly, and I think she did fine. You had Toni Collette was Xena. Why am I
Perlman.
thinking Ron Perlman as Bruno the Strongman? Of course, he's in a movie with Guillermo Del Toro as the director. Of course, he was Hellboy.
Yep.
And
Clifton
then you
Collins
had
Jr. playing the guitar.
Yep, and then you also had why can't I think of her name? Kate Blanchett as Ritter, who I liked.
We didn't even talk about
that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the psychologist in the previous movie.
Yeah, so
also
one of the
Tim
other
Blake Nelson is right at the end of this, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, and he's the one who turns him into a geek.
Yeah.
That was great. So yeah, basically the main con of the movie is there is a psychologist in both movies who feeds him information about the wealthy socialites, so that way he can appear to have psychic powers and whatnot. And in both versions, she secretly recorded him and made it seem like he was a crazy person that was really one of his patients, and he latched onto her. And that threw me in the first movie. I did not expect that.
Yeah.
This movie, of course, I knew it was going to happen, but they like really went for it. Like they had her call the cops, they had her act like a victim. Like she was so good and so cold in this, and it's just like he totally deserved it. I thought this was a much better played out version, and obviously once again more fleshed out.
Yeah, and I think I just looked at our whiteboard, forgot that was there. Yeah, it was a much more effective execution of that story. I think maybe it was even more obvious in this version that she was playing a long con, and that kind of made it more effective, more brutal.
No, I agree. You never really trusted her, and you didn't really know what was going on, because she would like be vulnerable with him and like show her scars, because clearly she had some violent altercation with somebody.
Yeah.
The implication I thought was Jenkins' character, the Grindel, the mark at the end of the movie. but then she like immediately close it up and then be very domineering with him and everything. And she was, I mean, it's Kate Blanchett. You expect a good performance from her, but I mean, she was playing him like crazy, and I really enjoyed that. And I liked they had really good chemistry. Have they been in anything else together?
Not off the top of my head.
I can't think of anything, but
Rocket Raccoon is not in Thor, so.
No.
How many superheroes are in this movie? Bradley Cooper
so you
is
have
Rocket
Hellboy.
Raccoon. You got Hellboy.
Right.
Kate Blanchett is Hela.
Rooney Mara's sister was the Invisible Woman in the newer Fantastic.
But not Rooney. That doesn't count.
No.
Tim Blake Nelson was the Thinker in Green Lantern.
Was he in Green Lantern?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Or yeah, I think so. Oh no, Hulk. I'm sorry.
He was in the Hulk, and he was the guy who becomes the leader.
The leader, yeah, not the Thinker.
Yeah. Who else is in this? Ron Perlman. I was surprised that for the Geek they didn't get Doug Jones, who's always in Guillermo's movies. Like, was he something in this movie?
He's I don't see him in the cast.
That's odd that he wasn't. He was probably busy filming Star Trek.
Oh, Romana Power, daughter of Tyrone Power, cameos as a viewer of Stanton's show, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I really liked the update to the, I mean, obviously with it being black and white and going to color, you're able to do things. But when his uniform or his costume, when he's doing the show is, like a tuxedo, and then it has like a handkerchief that goes around, blindfold, and it has like a third eye.
Like Enoch.
That was really cool. But I really liked the mask in this, but I also liked the origin of it was, it was really creepy. And another thing that was disturbing, but Willem Dafoe's character, the guy who owns the original circus, has a bunch of he pickles a lot of baby animals. So he's got a lot of animals, and he's got a lot of actual human babies, but there's one that had a third eye. And it comes back at the end, that's where his logo comes from. And then at the end of the movie, he sees the same baby with Tim Blake Nelson's character, and then also the radio that he sold to Willem Dafoe to cover his first dinner with the circus. So I thought that was a pretty cool kind of everything circles back at the end of the movie, and that consistent third eye. The
baby is part of the credits. Like at the end of the movie, you see like close-ups of the baby revolving around in his little fluid or whatever.
Yeah, it was super weird. God, I mean, I definitely think this movie's worth watching. It's super easy to get. It's on Hulu and HBO Max. So
we didn't talk about the costume design or set design, but it's fucking amazing, especially
gorgeous.
Like going from the like rundown Carney village in the beginning, and then going to the this like gorgeous like Art Deco office that Lilith works in, and her whole building, fucking incredible.
Oh, fantastic sets. Yeah. The only thing that I didn't like was, and I didn't notice any of these transitions in the original, but I think it was just trying to like pay homage to some of the older stuff. But there were some really weird transitions in this movie, like when Molly and him would go kissing, and it would do like a circle fade and everything, but then it would open up to them in the next scene. It was like they were kind of clumsy.
I laughed at it, and it was kind of charming, but I was also like, oh, that like took me out of the movie. I don't know if that was necessary.
Yeah, it took me out of the movie. It took Katrina out of the movie as well. She's like, why did they do that? Like, this isn't Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is known for that. So like when you see it in Star Wars, it's nostalgic. But this was like seriously like fade to black with a tunnel kind of thing, and then tunnel back out of it. It was a little corny. But
I didn't love
it. On the whole, like this movie was very watchable. Like it was super easy to watch. Like it was just under 2 hours, or no, it was an hour.
It's 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 30 minutes. But it didn't feel like that. Like
I was by pretty fast.
I engaged in it, other than those few transitions where it pulled me out.
Yeah, both of these movies are weird. They're like structurally, because they're really like cut up into 3 different sections, I think.
Yeah. I was telling Katrina the same thing. I felt like the first movie was a couple of vignettes.
Yeah. And it almost makes it like, it makes it feel longer and shorter at the same time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like this one, same thing. It was basically 3 very obvious acts, like the rise, and then his actual time being famous, and then the fall. Yeah. But they were much more fleshed out. Like I don't feel like this one was vignette-y. I made up that word, vignette-y. Like the original one really did feel like it was 3
Is that like the missing link that drives cars around in the Alps?
No,
Vignetti.
no, I got what you're saying.
Because it's like Vin
I just
Diesel,
didn't like it.
but he's like a Yeti.
Yeah.
Family. There it is. I was just gonna keep on going until I got a laugh.
But yeah, it's hard to talk about this movie. Like, I obviously we've already spoiled the hell out of it, but it's one of these things. Like, there's a lot more nuance to the new one, and some really good performances. And I think everybody delivers an A game. Like Ron Perlman, Willem Dafoe, Rooney Mara, Cate Blanchett. Everybody in this movie was great. The only thing that there's just a few little production things that I thought were off. We already talked about the transitions. The wig work in this movie wasn't very good. Like, there were certain characters that was very obvious they were wearing wigs.
I'm really bad with wigs. I don't notice them. Other people always.
So, like Jenkins, the main guy, maybe part of it is because we always see him as bald, but I've seen him in other movies with hair, and it looks way better.
He had like a dumb haircut.
Yeah, but like it was very, very, very obvious to me it was a wig.
Maybe that's on purpose though. Maybe he's supposed to be wearing a rug.
Yeah, maybe. And then also like the funhouse scene, the hydraulics they seem too modern. Like, there was a few little things where I'm like, that seems a little more modern than they would have been back in the day. But very nitpicky. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I really wanted to see this in theaters, and then unfortunately Omicron came about, and I stepped aside from going to. Yeah, I haven't gone. Like, I haven't been to the movies in
Omicron.
Weeks. Omicron.
Omicron.
Yeah.
Omicron.
I've been with British people for the last week. Like, most of my days I've been with people, and that's how they say it.
Jolly good.
Yeah, I was, and with all of last week through work, I was hanging out with Europeans. It was fun. It was actually really fun. Hanging out with some Austrians, hanging out with some English guys. Cool. It was fun.
Cool. Yeah, it's very exciting for you.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a really good week professionally. So anyway, God, we're just kind of rambling. This is kind of a short episode. It's a good movie, and it's topical right now. It's gonna, it's getting nominated for a bunch of awards. So, go watch the movie and make what you will of it. I think, Alex said it at the beginning. This movie was ripe for a remake. It's old and dated. I wouldn't say even the original was anything special. It was a perfectly serviceable movie, but definitely not sacred.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think people would not be watching the original one or know the story unless there was a remake. So
yeah, I mean, neither of us knew. And like, I like Bradley Cooper. I like all the actors in this, and I love Guillermo Del Toro, and it wasn't even on my radar that this was a remake. So shows how sacred that movie is. But we don't just talk about the movies. We like you guys to get to know us a little bit in our little segment called "What Have You Been Up to, Bud?"
You have to say, "What have you been up to, bud?"
What have you been up to, bud?
Well, I finally watched Palm Springs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you've been wanting to watch that for a long time.
Yeah, it took me forever to get to it, but I finally watched it. Really enjoyed it. Great little movie. Yeah.
Good.
Totally recommend it. I rewatched Airheads.
Nice.
It had been a minute.
Classic.
Scarlett had never seen it, so
I haven't seen it since the 90s.
We were looking for it last week, and it was on it was only available to like rent on Amazon. Like, it wasn't anywhere else. And I was like, "What? It's like a classic movie. How is it not anywhere?" And I realized that it was coming on HBO like the next day from when we wanted to watch it.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I forgot about it. And then the other day I remembered that it was on HBO, so we watched it on HBO.
Great.
And it holds up, man. That's such a fun movie. That should be remade.
Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler, Brendan Fraser
in his prime.
Yeah,
I feel like they could remake it, and they could just break into the Spotify offices.
Yeah, there you go.
And maybe Joe Rogan gets held hostage. And then I went and saw Moonfall in the theater.
Nice. That looks so bad, but it looks fun.
It's fucking bonkers. I mean, listen, it's
Roland Emmerich.
It's just as good as 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow. Like, it's just another Roland Emmerich disaster epic.
So what if you didn't like those two movies?
Then you probably won't like it.
Oh, damn. I probably won't like it.
Yeah. I mean, you know what you're signing up for.
Right.
I fucking loved Independence Day when it came out. Like, I was exactly the right age for it. And there was a brief period in the 90s where there was like a ton of disaster movies.
Right.
And I would go see all of them. I loved all that shit. I really enjoyed Independence Day
Resurgence
too.
Oh, I hated that one.
Yeah, it's
I
terrible,
mean,
but I enjoyed it.
I actually enjoyed the 1998 Godzilla more than the 2014.
Ooh, don't
Listen
agree
to our
with you
first
there.
episode. There's a reason for it. Like special
Right.
effects wise, no. There's certain things, but like from a character standpoint, like the human characters were actually better.
But
In
that's
98.
that movie very much like follows the template of Roland Emmerich disaster
Yeah,
movies.
absolutely. It
So
does.
I knew what I was signing up for with Moonfall, and it showed the moon crashing into the earth. That's what I came for. So it's
That's
pretty
what
cool.
you got.
Yeah, and it's worth
Good.
saw it on the big screen, so no complaints there.
Good. Anything else?
No, I haven't been watching a lot of movies lately. I've been doing a lot of editing work and watching TV shows. We're watching Righteous Gemstones. Still rewatching King of the Hill. King of the Hill
Nice.
kind of goes downhill.
Yeah, it does.
Becomes the Prince of the Hill. What other TV shows are we watching? I don't know. I'll remember later.
Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, you mean the Mandalorian?
Yeah, Mandalorian 2.5.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it was totally fine. It was
Did you
fine.
see the commercial for that new Lakers show with John C. Reilly?
With John C. Reilly? Yeah, that show is actually what broke up Will Ferrell and Adam McKay.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, Will Ferrell wanted to be that character, but like John C. Reilly actually looks a lot like the guy.
Mhm.
So Adam McKay was like, that doesn't really make sense. And Will Ferrell apparently like only wants to produce things that he's the star of. He doesn't want to produce things for other people. And Adam McKay is like, yeah, I kind of want to like produce things and not be, just have it be you. Like I want to branch out. And so like their long-term business partnership and friendship just completely broke down over that show.
That sucks. So they're not friends anymore?
Nope.
Wow. All right. Well, I hope it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah. I'll watch it.
Oh, I'll tell you what I've been doing lately. While I work, I like to listen to podcasts and stuff. So I've been binging Rick Glassman's "Take Your Shoes Off" podcast.
Yeah,
And
you mentioned that the last episode that you were listening to that.
yeah,
Still going strong.
listen to a ton more. Listen to him every day right now. He's great. I also saw him perform last week.
Oh, good.
At the Improv. That was really fun.
Nice.
So
I'll just shotgun my stuff real quick. So we finished the Golden Girls. I can't remember the name of the show exactly, but we're about halfway through. It's on Netflix with Kristen Bell. It's like the woman in the house across the street from the girl on the train or some shit like that. It's a parody making fun of all those, like girl on the train kind of stuff. It's fun. I actually really like it. We also watched Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin, Selena Gomez, and Martin Short.
Right. How was that?
I really enjoyed that despite Martin Short. I've never liked Martin Short, but I love Steve Martin. And, I just have to accept sometimes when you watch Steve Martin, you get a little Martin Short.
Steve Martin Short.
Yeah. But no, it's totally good. I really enjoyed that show. Finished Golden Girls. It was fine. It's a good show.
Some episodes are problematic.
Yeah. Some episodes are problematic, but
until you get the
B. Arthur is fantastic.
Yeah,
nobody needs to.
That's what they say in Airheads when he gets the naked picture of B. Arthur.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie since like '96.
It's on HBO.
Maybe I'll watch it. Started New Girl. I think I said that last time. I'm enjoying it.
New Golden Girl.
Yep. Shang-Chi. We rewatched that. Katrina hadn't seen it. We watched the IMAX version, and it completely filled my projector screen. That was cool. I liked it better the second time, and I liked it when we reviewed it. I said it was kind of in the middle of the pack for the Marvel movies. I'd still say it's in the middle of the pack, but I enjoyed it a lot more. Like the ending, I think when we recorded our review, I said I didn't really care for the ending. I wish, he had more of a physical enemy that he had to fight at the end. But, I liked it a lot more the second time around.
Right,
so
that was
good. And watched Hot Fuzz. That's one of my Desert Island movies. We watched it a few times a year.
Hell yeah.
And it was good. Really enjoyed it.
Nice.
But that's it. I didn't watch a ton. I had pretty much all last week. I was working like 14, 15-hour days, so didn't have a ton of time. But it was good. All right. Well, that's the show.
Yeah, we did it.
You got some plugs?
Yeah, baby. I'm on Instagram at Dyslexic, DYS Alex IC. I'm the most active on TikTok these days at Polishi, Pulisci. I'm on Twitter at Polishi. I'm on Letterboxd at Polishi. You can follow along with the movies and I guess not the TV shows that I'm watching. And if you like movies and TV, I assume that's why you're listening to this podcast. I'm selling a bunch of cool movie and TV related t-shirts on Etsy. You can find me at Burn the Scene Boutique.
Ooh, he's got some good shirts, like quality, just throwing it out there, not just as, you know, a co-host, but like as a customer. I have one of his shirts, and it is the softest, nicest shirt
I appreciate
in the
that.
world.
I
I wear the, it's one of the, so I wear it as a sleep shirt, super comfortable. But
sick.
every time we do laundry, the first thing I do is I go and find that shirt when it's nice and warm and comfy, and then that's my PJ shirt after doing laundry. So great
Yeah,
product. You should get it.
I appreciate that. I put everything on Bella Canvas blanks, so it's important to me that they're comfy.
Yeah, they're super comfy. You guys can check out everything that's MDX Pods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at MDX Pods. We are also on YouTube, so you can check us out there. Just Google or just search Remake Rewind, MDX Pods, Ruin My Childhood, any of the stuff that we've done, and you'll see us there. And if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/MDXpods.
Yeah.
And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.